Hello and welcome to Soaring Higher with Rita. Hi, I'm Rita Rocker, international author, speaker, and trainer with SoaringHigher.rocks. And I'm very happy to be here working with you, providing programs on personal and professional development. This is deep in my heart to do that. And so I'm going to be sharing with you in the next few weeks from my book, Creating Your Own Destiny: Power Steps for Mind and Body Renewal. And so this is very important, that no matter what book I write or no matter what group I talk to, even if it's on business professionalism, I think it's so important to first of all talk about who we are inside, because who we are inside absolutely affects who we are and what we do on the outside in our life around us. So I'm going to be working with this book for the next few weeks. So just to share with you what the topics are, going from the inner person to the outer person, are emerging from the wilderness, which we're going to be talking about today, because a lot of times we feel like we're in a wilderness. Unleashing the power of the phoenix within you. The phoenix can always rise even after it thinks it's been destroyed. Behind the mask, you're beautiful under there. Getting rid of that imposter syndrome that a lot of us may deal with. I know I have. Miracle in my mirror, so that you see yourself completely different than maybe you have been. Limiting beliefs, confining boundaries, not in my world. And so that's when to really kick the world in the fanny and get rolling. You're not getting older, you're getting better. The next one is turning chaos into creativity. Has a lot of life lessons and a lot of techniques and tips to move forward. The confident person, designing your success story. That's when we really get into working on the outside, our career and what we want to do with life. And then create your ideal image and brand yourself for success. That's really getting into our professionalism, our communication skills, and being confident in what we do. And then using your divine talents and abilities. Okay, so those are very, very important. And so we're going to be talking a lot about, in the introduction today, reinvention. Okay, reinvention, it could be a part of our lives, or maybe, I know like in my case too, maybe all of our lives, okay? So transformation is a complete overhaul of structure or character. Okay, and our character says a lot about us. I love the word reinvention. Okay, so what does that actually mean? It means the intentional process of transforming oneself, one's career, or business by altering core habits to meet new demands. Now, everything is so highly technologically nowadays that it's very hard sometimes to keep up with all of it, but that's what reinventing ourselves is to keep moving forward, keep changing the things that we need to change to move forward, but not to lose ourselves in the process. And so you think about it in what way? Well, reinventing a job, a relationship, where we live, what we do. And so you are a warrior, and I want to make that so clear. We are all warriors. A lot of times we feel like we're pretty much defeated. So maybe it's time for a radical invention, or maybe just a little bit of a reinvention in a part of our lives. And you know, sometimes we felt like, oh man, I'm on a merry-go-round and I just want to get off, because life can be so crazy. And sometimes people do feel like they're on a merry-go-round. I know I have. And it could be, I want to get off of this merry-go-round in my relationship, in this particular job, in the way my health is. I want to get off this merry-go-round in that area and fix it. Or it might be, I just want to get off this merry-go-round of life and go away and get off of it completely. I've been there too. But we have to realize that we can stand up and we can fight for our divine purpose and the divine place in the world. And so this program is all about life-transforming steps to help us to get to our goals and make them a reality, instead of just wishing and hoping like it's so easy to do so many times. So discover your power steps to spirit, soul, and body. And those are with terms like revive, restore, rebuild, and release, and reinvent. And so I looked up some of those words just to make sure I got them right, because these are all so important. The words that begin with R, and the first is reinvention, which I talked about, the act of replacing something to an entirely new version. And actually, that's kind of exciting. And to take a different career or a different way of life. A lot of people need a different way of life from what they've been through, and I know I've experienced a lot of that myself. Revive. Sometimes we think of revival, or we think reviving somebody who maybe almost drowned, and sometimes it feels that way in life too. But to bring someone or something to life, to strength, or to practice coming back into being useful. And so it's activating something that was once vigorous but is now dormant, but bringing it back again. Restore is to bring back to its original or former or normal condition or location. It's to repair or rebuild something to a previous state. And if in your life you feel like, well, I don't like the previous state I was ever in, then that's where you want to just rebuild. Okay, I love the word rebuild. It's reconstructing something that was damaged possibly, or just needs to be replaced. And so that includes demolition, though, of the old site, the old damaged version, to put it in good shape again. And we think, oh, you know what? This kitchen is so old. It's so outdated. I don't like the color. I just don't like my kitchen. It just looks gross. And I'm going to remodel it and rebuild it into something new. What happens in that rebuilding process? The cupboards, the countertops, everything is torn out. It is taken down first before the new can be brought in and being able to enjoy it. And so sometimes in life, the same thing happens. We have to get rid of all of the old things, not only in the kitchen, but sometimes in our lives, in order to go forward. So sometimes in that tearing down and remodeling process, it can be rough, but they're all steps, beautiful steps to create something brand new. And so sometimes we can compare rebuilding a house, kitchen, whatever the case may be, to how our lives are rebuilt to something beautiful and strong and brand new again. And so another one is release. I love that word, release, to set something free, including physical liberation. And a lot of times that could happen. I've been through a lot of domestic violence. And so to be released from that, I've worked with a lot of women who have gone through a lot of things like that, incarceration, addiction, trafficking, all of that. And to be free, to be released from the old so they can go forward with their new lives. And so it is being set free from constraints, obligations, or pain, and includes releasing stress, tension, or repressed emotions. So often there are emotions that are inside of us that will keep coming up and keep trying to pull us down. And so we want to be released from that, set free from that. So it's like something, whether it's guilt or it's shame or something that happened even when you were a child, no longer has any way of keeping you from your future. Can't hold you down anymore. So being emotionally released, mentally released, sometimes that takes a big process to do that. You know, when I was little and I was 5 and my family didn't have much money and I was the youngest of 4 girls, and my mom told my dad, and he wouldn't let anybody drive, including her. So mom said, I was very sick. I needed to go to the doctor. It was on a Saturday. And Dad said, well, take her on the bus then because I'm busy. I'm going to the horse races in Grand Island. And so he took off, and Mom didn't have enough money for cab fare both ways. So she took me very sick on the bus. Well, this isn't that big of a deal in life itself, but for some reason, that implanted in my little 5-year-old brain at that time, you're worthless, you're nothing. Horses are more important than you are. You don't mean anything. And so I allowed that. Even though a lot of people have a lot worse incidences than that, I allowed that to always tell me I was unworthy, didn't amount to much, and so nothing I said or did mattered. And so it really had a great effect on a lot of my life, just as things could affect other people. I've read many times where even something that is said or done when a child is in the womb does affect them because they are absorbing that into them, and it can affect them. So, you want to think of that too in how those things matter, how they can affect each other. And so we want to seize our dreams. And sometimes we had dreams when we were younger, and then because life got in the way, we had to put them on the back shelf. So this is a time to really think about you and what's important to you and what makes you light up in your life so that you can achieve those again. So write up why you believe that where you are, why are you where you are, rather than where you want to be. And I would really encourage you, sit down and use a notebook and a pen. Don't use your laptop, don't use your phone, anything like that, because that's distracting and it gets us distracted on other things. Sit quietly where you can, when you can. And I know sometimes that's hard if things are kind of crazy around you. And it's like, why am I where I am? And I have come up with all kinds of reasons why I was held back, and it was here. I remember when I was in third grade, I was a quiet little mouse, and I had a big, I'm German, so it was kind of like she was a big old tough German teacher. And she just seemed like she didn't like me, and I thought, why? I'm trying to be a good girl, do my classes and everything. But then when the National Scholastic Aptitude Test came around, I scored a 97 nationwide, which still surprises me, but I'm like, oh my gosh, well, see, I'm not stupid after all. And so she started treating me differently. And I found that was very, very interesting how that happened. So again, why do you believe you are where you are? If you really stop and think about it very quietly, trace back all the way back to your life as far as you can remember and see what things are sticking and what direction they caused you to go because of it. Okay? So, and then what is your purpose in life? You know what? Every one of us has a purpose in our lives. Every one of us. Sometimes we feel like, well, there's no purpose in my life. I'm just kind of going through day after day. I'm not worth anything. No, God gave us all a purpose. Okay, so we all have a purpose. So if you don't know for sure what yours is yet, what's closest to your heart? What makes you light up? That is so important. And I've seen that in so many people when I've talked to them. Maybe they're doing just a plain old job job to make a living, and that's all they've ever thought about. And yet, if they think of something or get involved in a group activity or something else, they light up. That's where they feel confident. That's where they feel good. That's what makes them happy. I have a friend whose grandson, he's 22 now. He has sold multiple millions of dollars of houses in real estate. He started working for a real estate company when he was not quite old enough to get his license yet, his real estate license. So he would make cold calls all day, which I can't imagine doing that. But he lit up. And then when he was old enough to go through his exams and get his real estate license, he just right off the bat, he started flipping houses, and he started, buying at age 20 a condo that he could rent half, and now he's somewhere else. But it made him light up. Every time I talked to him, it was like he just grinned and he smiled and he was so full of life. So every one of you have something that lights up your life. It's your purpose, it's your calling. Just like what I'm doing is my purpose and my calling. And I'm very grateful to be getting back into it after taking some time off for some struggles and surgeries and things that I had to deal with recently. And so think about that. Maybe the medical area, helping people feel better has been something on your heart, but you go, I don't have the money, I don't have the courage. Oh, I'd love to be in the medical field, but I can't stand the sight of blood. Well, there's so many scientific positions and things out there where you could get into medical, but not necessarily have to poke people if that's something that I can't stand that. But, think about that. Maybe everybody loves your baking and you could have a bakery, or you could be part of something that people really enjoy, or catering, and you see the delight on their face. And it's like, that brightens you up every time you do that. Okay, that might be a field for you to do rather than possibly doing data entry all day in an office. I know how that goes. I've always loved to be with people. And when I had jobs where I had to just kind of sit and be on the laptop or the computer all day, it was like driving me nuts because that wasn't right. And so think about that. some sort of hospitality, again, with people. Some people are very quiet. They want to do like accounting or something where they don't have to deal with a lot of people. You know, their happiness is going home to a loving dog or a pet or a family there. And so what lights you up? Maybe it's writing, creating music, or playing music and singing, because you know that's something that people enjoy. And so that is something also that is very, very important. Teaching others, technology. Maybe you're what people think is a nerd and you love the technology because it is just awesome, awesome, awesome. And so think about the technology as well. And so difficult steps, really, we have to take a lot of times, and they're like puzzle pieces, okay? And so puzzle pieces are often required to prepare you with the experiences, the education, and the connections that will launch you higher and benefit you. And so it's like, oh my gosh, it's like 1,000 puzzle pieces. And this is life a lot of times when it starts out. And so think about that and know that there are a lot of steps we have to do job. You know, sometimes I've heard where people who ended up to be CEOs of companies were made to start out maybe at the very bottom, maybe a mailroom person or in a restaurant, and they had to wash the dishes and things like that because they needed to go through every level of what everybody else goes through. My son has been in a particular law enforcement. I won't get into it. And he was also a Marine in the military. And anytime his guys were having a hard time, he was right there. He was always in the trenches with them because he knew that that was what was important, to help them to grow, to learn, to help protect, all of that. And so again, a lot of times we have to go through steps maybe we don't want to, but they're very valuable to give us the experiences where we can now relate to other people. And so think about that. Don't be real upset if you have to start out in a certain place. I mean, I have a friend who, when she got out of high school, she had no college. She went to what was then in Omaha and was a national advertising agency, and she was an accounting clerk. Okay, no college, accounting clerk. And as time went on, she worked and she built herself up to an actual vice president of media buying, and would consistently go to New York, Chicago, Dallas, Los Angeles, and she did that. I know 2 other women who were basically didn't have any college either, and they ended up owning and running 2 very successful human resources companies, recruiting staffing companies, and now they're very, very wealthy. And so again, don't think that just because you don't have a certain amount of education or something that it's not working for you. Take the steps to keep going up to what you're called to do, what lights you up, and what's fulfilling for you to do. And think about realignment in life, whether it's spirit, soul, or body. You know, it can often be compared to realigning a car. Why does our car need realignment? Well, that could be because it keeps wandering off the path. A lot of times we can do that. I've done that a lot, wandering off the path, wearing down a part of the tire unevenly, which could be wearing down a certain part of our lives, you know, when you think of our own spirit, soul, and body. And a lot of times we need a realignment as well to get right back on the right path for us, where a person, place, or thing is maybe taking up too much time and energy. And that's lessening your value. And so it may be, you know what, I can't do this anymore. My apologies, but I'm busy right now. I cannot come over and help you. I cannot take over your workload. And so think about where you might want to or need to be getting a realignment. Where do you feel your life needs to be realigned in order to get back on the road to your true destiny? Because there can be a lot of distractions. I'm one who gets distracted very easily. I can read a few pages out of a few paragraphs out of a book, and I'm going, I have no idea what I just read. Why? Because my mind's gone here, there, and everywhere. And so distraction is easy to come about, but that's something that if you are distracted easily, you have to work on. So that means changing, eliminating, or adding different relationships, different educational components, different work, to get life back on track. You know, Tony Robbins once said, it's in your moments of decision that your destiny is shaped. Okay? And so you think about that. Everything that happens throughout the days, that's a decision. Am I going to go here, or am I going to go home and I'm going to get on the computer and I'm going to learn something? I'm going to study a particular topic. What decisions am I making? Am I going to go after work and sit in the bar all night? Or maybe I need to stop in and say hi to some people and just chill for an hour and then go home and make the decision to do something constructive, to be with family, to get some other things done. So every decision shapes our destiny. So what are you speaking about? Yourself and your life. I was saying some things to my sister in California last week over the phone, and I was kind of blaming myself still for some guilt I had from many years ago. And she said, stop it. She called me out. She says, why are you saying that? And she said, you're acting upon things that happen. And then, if you keep saying that, more of the same is going to come about. Let it go. You're bringing it back in. You're saying things that you shouldn't be, because it's over and done with. And I didn't take offense. I said, thank you. I really appreciate that you called my attention to what I was doing. So sometimes we have to humble ourselves and we have to go, okay, you were right. I remember years ago when I worked for the Director of Unemployment in the Department of Labor, and I also had a lady who had a modeling school. I taught modeling for her. I was one of her instructors, and she was my mentor, but she was ruthless and literally tearing her girls, especially me, apart to make us more perfect. And she called me once at the job, and she said, my gosh, you sound so unprofessional and harsh. And at first I thought, well, same to you. And then I stopped and I started listening to myself, and I thought, I hate to admit it, but she's right. I do sound very unprofessional. And so what did I do? I changed the way I answered the phone and conducted myself while I was talking on the phone to be more professional. So instead of taking it as a deep offense, you're right. And so I changed it. And so think about that, and well, what does God say about you? His word's full of love and encouragement for us. And I can remember one time when I was having some quiet time, and I just happened to think back to something I had done. It was no big deal either, years before that. And I went, oh, you dumb, 4-letter word I can't say. And right then, I heard God specifically speak to my spirit, and he said, who are you calling that? You asked me to take up residence within your life. If I am inside of you, how can you call yourself that? Tears started rolling down my cheeks, and I said, Father, I am so sorry. Because what I was doing was kind of calling him that, because I had asked him to take over my life. And so one of the biggest helps for me is to realize who's in me, who's I'm serving, whose purposes, who gave me the purposes that he wants me to fulfill and will help me fulfill them. So think about that. And then there's Eleanor Roosevelt, one of the first ladies from a long time ago, who said, no one can make you feel inferior without your permission. I'll repeat that. No one can make you feel inferior without your permission. All my life, I let people make me feel inferior. Why? Because without realizing it, I was allowing it. I was giving them permission to do that. And so what you want to do, if that happens to you, is take away that permission. You're not permitted, you're not permitted to do that to me anymore. I don't receive it. I cut it off. Like the 3 monkeys, hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. And sometimes we think of that, and it's like, that's right. I'm not putting up with that anymore. I don't receive it. I don't allow it to happen anymore in my life. Because what you focus on, you empower and you become. which was what my sister was reminding me of too, and what I write in my books and in speaking programs, is what we focus on. That's what gives us our power. That's what we focus on. That's the direction we go. Those are the people we hang around with. Those are the things we do at work and after work and all of that. So think about that. So as you focus on the new, you'll be amazed how old habits, and I know this for a fact, fade farther, farther away until one day they're gone. We won't keep attracting with the energy that we had negative people. They won't even be attracted to us anymore. And so they won't come around anymore. And so we want to integrate the necessary elements for restoration, release, revival, rebuilding, which sometimes are tough, but so freeing, so liberating, and life-changing. So think about emerging from the wilderness, okay? And that's in the first chapter. I love this affirmation. It's something that you can say. I would really recommend you do it in front of the mirror. And it is, I am slamming the door on my past. Self-sabotage does not live here anymore. Regret, shame, and defeat have now left the building. Sorry, you life destroyers, the door is locked and you can never enter my life again. Sometimes we have to get very spunky and we have to do that and we have to say that and go, no. I realize I've been self-sabotaging, something I still have an issue with. And it's like, never again, never again. It's not going to happen anymore. But that takes intentional concentration on laser focus to the priority. If it's a priority for work, again, what kind of people, places, things can I do to steer me in that direction, to get realigned in that direction? So we're going to focus on truly taking off and rising higher by implementing laser focus on that one thing. No more of what I do a lot of times. Oh, squirrel. And I get totally distracted with something else. Not going to happen, not going to happen. So make efficient goals and do meaningful activities, organizations, more family time, classes, volunteering for new experiences and new connections. Very, very important to accelerate and to shift. So I'm going to finish on with this for the next program. And I encourage you to come back and work through this. I do have workbooks available as well as my books to really help you to grow and to concentrate on each step. So thank you, and I'll see you next time.